Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I know today's conversation is going to have so much wisdom for those who are seeking to be in healthy, mindful relationships. So my guest today is Hurley. Thank you so much for joining. You and I have been connected for some time now. And
yes,
I'm really happy to have you finally here, and we get to be in conversation that we get to share with so many others. So please tell me a little bit more about how you got to where you are and your journey that has led you to not only do the work that you're doing, but really living in the truth of what you are guiding others in doing.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yes, so I have been a therapist for, 12 plus years and coaching for the last couple of years. And my journey has been kind of interesting because I got into counseling really from this place of my 20s were this hot mess. Honestly, I ended my 20s, finishing out grad school, but I was overstressed and overworked and had no idea I was doing it. My mom kept saying, you need to take a step back. Like, you need to take a step back. I'm like, I'm loving this. Like, I'm top of my career and the youngest person to do this. And this is amazing. And she's like, got to take a step back. And I just kept getting like one mystery illness after another. And she's like,
not such a mystery, really. Yeah.
Yeah. My older, wiser self knows that, but my 20-year-old self was like, no, it's coincidence. These things happen. That's what doctors are here for. Yeah. So one thing after another, I was in a series of unhealthy relationships too, and just pushing myself in all kinds of crazy directions. And I don't know which crazy mystery illness it was, but finally I realized I had to take a step back. At some point, you just grow up and wake up enough to realize, like, what is your most important priorities in life? And I don't know, I had a fairly healthy family growing up. I don't know why it wasn't on my front of my mind to know my health was actually the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
Without that, you really have nothing. But eventually I had that wake up call, probably like close to 30, where I realized, okay, I needed to take a step back. I needed to slow down. My career was not the most important thing. I was doing some really amazing things, helping people, but if I wasn't taking care of myself, I actually couldn't really take care of anybody.
Absolutely.
And from there, I started really focusing on my health, and I shifted my practice to focusing on helping people manage their stress and anxiety, so that they didn't burn out and end up where I was with autoimmune disease and all this stuff going on. And I love that part of my career. But over the next 10 years, I'm now 41, I would then take on the next challenge, which was really relationships. I was in a marriage at the time that had lots of ups and downs. I was growing a lot, right? I'd gone through grad school through that relationship, which fast forwards your personal development like crazy.
Yes, it does.
And then I ended up getting divorced, which was probably the hardest thing I've been through to date. Even though I asked for the divorce, even though I came to a really good place with it, it took me a long time to get there. It took me years to get there. It was still the most heartbreaking thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
So coming out of that was my next kind of awakening of realizing that I had these unhealthy patterns that weren't serving me and still impacting my health in a totally different way. And then I looked around and realized all of my friends were also in unhealthy relationships, smart, successful, amazing women who just kept choosing these like fixer-uppers or guys with potential or guys that wouldn't commit or, want to be in committed relationships. And then I also realized most of my clients were doing the same thing. So it's funny how, I don't know what your experience has been as a therapist, but like life just kind of funnels you into these places where people need you and through your own experience and healing. And so that was the next piece for me, was recognizing I had to work through my own stuff. I was not going to get in another relationship like that. And I was going to commit to helping women figure this out so that they also didn't have to go through 2 decades of crazy dating like I had.
Makes for some good stories. Makes for some good stories though, doesn't it?
Right? Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
That's how I got here.
There's so much of our journeys that overlap. Thankfully, I'm trying to find some wood to knock on. I don't have any wood around me, but I'll make sure to get there. I didn't have the health component being impacted, but just that the awakening of recognizing through our own growth, how do I reconcile where my growth is taking me versus where I thought I was going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's the fear of growth, right? That's the fear of, oh shit, this is great. I'm growing. And it might mean that the things that I thought were supposed to be the path may not be the right path. And reconciling that for me was really, really hard as well, which also resulted in my divorce in my mid-30s. And I was the last person on earth I ever thought would get divorced. And oftentimes, you know, that biggest breakdown is the biggest breakthrough. And I, like you, as the one who wanted it, doesn't mean it was easy by any means. And yet it completely informs my work with my clients now. Like, I'm so grateful, really, truly so grateful for all of my own twists and turns, because as therapists, we are trained in giving people the skills and the tools. But if not to say every therapist has to go through every challenge their clients have, but man, is it helpful to have that real life experience, not just sympathy, not just empathy, but the deepest level of experiential compassion to say, like, I really know what you're feeling. And here's how the tools that I use that I'm teaching you, here's what it looks like in practice.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to inform our work through our own experiences. I think that's where you and I just have so much overlap.
Yeah, I love that you point out sort of that idea of like letting go of the attachment of who you thought you should be and where you thought you should be, right? Because I don't know about you, but going through a divorce as a therapist felt like particularly like a failure. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching people how to communicate all day long, how to have their lives together, and they're going to look at me like I'm some broken idiot that can't help them with anything because I don't have my life together. Like, I felt,
but maybe you were actually
so
putting
broken.
your life together, right? Like, that's, I think, the perception. Yeah. And I've had that comment before, like, oh, great, you know, you do marital work in your divorce. Yeah, that's really well informed to just be able to discern who is the right partner for you.
Totally.
Because it's not about love. I mean, John and I, you know, we talk all the time in the couples work that he and I do together and individually in working with our clients. Like, you can love a lot of people, but doesn't mean that they're the right partner for you. And also the right partner through different life stages, because not everyone has the same growth trajectory.
Absolutely. Like, I'm not the same person I was when I was 20. I'm not the same person I was when I was 30. No. And how I ever thought I could just like pick a person at this stage of life and it would just autopilot its way through, which is on some level what, you know, unconsciously I did think, right? That we just grow through all of this stuff and it would be fine, right? Not recognizing, grad school and all the things that I went through would send me in one direction and him continuing on this other pathway, right? It's not that he was a bad human. It's just we grew in very different ways. And I always use this example of, at the time I struggled with feeling like I was a failure, but I don't see it as a failure at all. In the same way that if I was going to say, I'm going to go on a road trip, I live in Idaho, I'm going to go on a road trip to Florida tomorrow, and I'm headed there and I'm driving and it's going great and I'm listening to my music and getting snacks and it's amazing. And then I find out that a hurricane is coming to Florida and my best friend's going to be in New York. So I decide to go to New York instead. I don't see that as a failed road trip. I see it as I got new information along the way and realized this path no longer fit for me.
Yes.
And so I think it's a bigger failure to keep going on the path that you know doesn't work for you. Oh my instead gosh. Of just rerouting, send your GPS in a different direction.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%. Yes, because that to me, you just nailed that around how do we define, and I think the word failure is harsh to begin with, and nothing is a failure, right? Having something end that we didn't think was going to end doesn't mean you failed at it. it really is, what did I learn from this? And can I harness that awareness to recognize that staying on the wrong path would have not served me at all? The only thing it would have served was the belief system from a decision I made a long time ago before I even knew who I was.
1,000%. Yes. Yes. And instead, both of us, it sounds like, have grown and changed through that and become better versions of ourselves through that process, right? I know more about myself going through that devastating heartbreak than I did before. And I have taken that and redone how I approach relationships, and now have a partnership that really fits me really well for this stage of life that I'm in now. And it's beautiful and amazing, and I love it. And I couldn't have got here had I not gone through all of that other stuff. So
yeah. And for those of you listening, even if this isn't about relationship, because I'm sure there's many people who are happily married, that divorce is not the path that they need to go through in order to figure this out. Although I do think that at least everyone in their 40s should go through divorce. You can choose to have the same partner at the end, but I think that pause of really, really, really honest, deep self-reflection to say, is this still the right path for me? Should be an expected part of any long-term relationship. You don't have to end up in divorce, but I think to go through the breakdown of let me get to the core of who I am at this point in time would serve a lot of people long-term, even if it was hard in the process, right? But, even having this awareness for those of you who, maybe this isn't the challenge in your relationship, but maybe in parenting. Like I'm going through something right now with my daughter who's 18, who is making choices very consciously on who she is right now at 18 versus decisions of how she thought she wanted to be at this point in time. And she literally just yesterday changed her mind on a plan that she's been wanting for the past 10 years. And there's such deep wisdom. And as I've been talking with her at length about it, of how proud I am of her for honoring what's coming up versus sticking with the plan she thought she was going to do and had already signed up to do, and the friends she was going to do that with, but recognizing it's not the right path for me. Here I am talking with her about this 18-year-old decision. And in my mind, it's the same words I say to clients about whether or not to stay married. It's the awareness piece, right?
I love that. What a little wise soul you're growing. You've helped blossom.
Yeah, definitely. But again, I'm so grateful for having my own experience to recognize there's no bad choice here.
I love
Except
the point that
staying in the one that doesn't feel in alignment with you. Like that's the only bad choice.
Yeah, not honoring
my
yourself,
mind.
not being authentic in that way. I like that you bring up the point of like continuously like choosing your marriage regardless, or your relationship regardless of your status, right? Because when I ended my marriage, I had said at the time, I'm going to write this book called The Marriage Lease. And I'm going to recommend to people that like you only like sign a lease for your marriage for a certain amount of time, whether it's a year, 3 years, whatever, but that you review whether or not it's a good fit as you go through, right? Instead of just, what I think we did when we got married is just sort of put it out, like it was an assumption that we would just stay together, right? And then it became all this work at the end trying to like catch up for the things that we sort of took for granted along the way, instead of actively choosing and reevaluating. And like,
I love that.
I teased my partner at New Year's. We sat down and I took like a notebook and said like, okay, we're going to like review our goals. And like, this is like our, annual review. So he's like,
yes,
it feels like a lot of pressure. I'm like, but like, let's talk about like personal goals we both have for this next year, but also combine goals together and how our relationship is going and what we want to do different. Can we please just consciously like choose this and choose this path together? And he was like, yes, I love this idea. Like totally on board.
And it takes a partner who shares the same value of awareness, growth, and communication to be on board with that. People ask me all the time, like, how should I know if I should stay with this person? And usually my first answer is, are they growth minded? Because if the person is growth minded, it's a much easier way to get through those roadblocks and challenges. If you're looking for, okay, this is where we're stuck. How can I gain some new tools, some new awareness and self-reflection, communication patterns where I can be growing towards a better version of myself, or more aligned version, not necessarily better, because that would imply the first one is bad, but just more aligned
Mhm.
And when someone's not growth oriented, it makes it really hard to have those kind of conversations.
Yes, growth oriented, solution oriented, rather than like fixed or like problem focused, right? Like, how are we going to move through this and grow through this and problem solve it rather than just keep going through the same cycle over and over again?
Yeah, finishing up that last piece about the marriage lease, I think that's hilarious. And I had a friend who once said, if our cells regenerate every 7 years, and so every 7 years on a cellular level, we're like a new person, that should give us freedom to be like, my new person doesn't really align with your new person, and we should just have an out every 7 years.
I love that.
But
That's really funny.
but no matter what the impetus is, whether it's New Year's, whether it's cellular regeneration, to be able to consciously say, how can we work on us?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take stock, so we don't get complacent and we don't get just on autopilot with the assumption that just because I love you, we're always going to be here.
Yep. How do I keep getting to know the different versions of you, right? You're not the same person now 3 years later that I fell in love with 3 years ago. You've grown and changed, and I need to continue to get to know that person just as I'm continuing to get to know myself.
Yeah.
Right. We have these different developmental phases that we hit, and these different career milestones and stages of life. And we sort of, I think a lot of people, the assumption is that like you're just the person that you are, and it just stays that way. But I am not the same person I was 5 years ago.
No, and nor should you be, right? Because our experiences shift us, and ideally our core values stay the same, but who we are and what we need and what we are seeking and what we can work towards, what we can let go of, that's going to be constantly changing. So another thing that you and I have in common that I want to give some time to talk about, because I think it's a really valuable conversation in having people hear that no relationship path has to be this like trajectory of the straight line of date, engagement, marriage, live together, so share a little bit about how you have navigated the path being unfolding even at this moment of what it has to look like, especially post-divorce.
Yeah, I think even if I back up a little bit earlier, I think now reflecting on when I got married the first time, I think as aware and as intentional as I felt like I was and as I could be in my 20s, right, that I still was following some predetermined expectations, right? You date, you move in together, you get married, you have kids, right? That was the course that's culturally we sort of spell out for people. And looking back now, again, a lot of self-reflection over the years and watching a lot of my clients go through this is like, when you're dating, everybody's like, when are you going to move in together? When are you guys getting engaged? Right. And second you get engaged, everybody's like, oh my gosh, let me see your ring. Like, oh, wow, he picked you. Right. There's this worth that comes
kind of like
with
a Cinderella moment, right? Damn Disney in that Cinderella moment.
Man, yeah, there's this worth that comes with getting the ring and being chosen, right? And needing to be chosen, and rather than really consciously doing the choosing yourself, which is what I see a lot of women struggle with. Fast forward.
Hold on. Pause on that, because that was something really, really big, and I don't want to miss that. Can we just go deeper on that for a second? I see this too. So many women are so concerned, and it's not a judgment, it's an observation. That they are getting chosen rather than recognizing they get to do the choosing.
Yeah, I think it's unintentional, right? I know I did it looking back, right? If you would have met me, there's no way you would have described me in that way. I don't think I certainly wouldn't have described myself in that way, that I was wanting to be chosen. Pick me was a deep wound that I had that I did not realize that I had, was like wanting to feel worthy and chosen. And having someone propose marriage to you really validated that. And I definitely, again, looking back, not at the time, looking back, I realized how insecure I was in that relationship, because I often, there was some cheating and things that had happened throughout the course of us dating, that I felt like I needed that security. And
Yeah.
that level of commitment was going to change some things in our
Yeah.
relationship, which I'm guessing you can guess it did not.
Well, and I think that's a fallacy that, people need to understand, because I've worked with many women who feel like if only we got engaged or if only we got married, I would feel more secure in the relationship. It's like, well, that may or may not be the case. You'll feel more secure in the relationship when the relationship feels secure, not because there's a ring on your finger or because you share a document that says you're legally bound to one another. Because an insecure relationship is about what feels connected and disconnected, not about the kind of formalities around it.
Mhm.
But that's a
Yeah,
perception.
Totally. And I think we felt different levels of security within that, right? I think he just felt like I'd always be there no matter what. And, took that for granted a little bit, that like we have the security of like, you're my person. We've made this commitment. We have this piece of paper, like these things, right? And I had a different sense of security that was there too. But, throughout that, kind of woke up and realized like it's a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm. If you're not doing the work to be secure. Yeah.
No, and my ex had already been divorced several times before we got married. So I don't know where all this came from, but I decided it, right? And I watched like a lot of my clients do the same thing of wanting that sense of security, wanting to be chosen, wanting that validation and that like sense of like, this will validate my worth if I find the person who chooses me. And so much of the work I do with women is like, no, you need to take the reins back. Like this is as much about you finding your partner, right? Like the show The Bachelor makes me a little bit crazy, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
But there's this love-hate relationship with it, right? But I'm watching The Bachelor right now where it's all about him and what he wants. And, they just get to show up and like hope that they get chosen, right? Which perpetuates this dream where The Bachelorette is kind of the opposite situation where it's her in charge and her getting it. And so helping people understand like both of you needs to be like actively, intentionally choosing, is this a person that I see a really viable relationship with, not just the feelings or the love or.
Yeah. And I want to get back to the other part we were going to go to, but to stay on this for just another moment, I find a lot of people, especially post-divorce, because this is a part in our lives where it's easy to feel really insecure around, I'm never going to find the right person. Like, am I going to be lucky enough to find love again if I already did it once? And especially as we get older, there's a perception that no one's going to want someone who has, fill in the blank, been divorced, come with, whatever it is, which again, everyone is seeking connection no matter how old they are. So don't let any age or number of children or even number of divorces stand in your way, because one of my favorite quotes that changed my life post-divorce was, what you seek is seeking you. Mm-hmm. And someone is looking exactly for who you are, right? So, but even aside from that is I see a lot of my clients wanting to over accommodate to the person they're dating to make sure that they feel liked and that they feel, I don't know what the right word is I want to put on it, but that they feel, if I just give this person what they're needing, then we'll be in good relationship. And I'm constantly checking in with, that's great that you want to be able to meet their needs. Are you equally expressing and naming yours? This is a co-creation of a healthy relationship. And if you over accommodate to someone else's needs early on to kind of hook them in, at some point, your true self will need to be revealed. And the other person might be like, wait a second, you used to be so accommodating. What do you mean you have an opinion about where we go for dinner or how we spend our money or where we take a vacation? And I'm talking, those are just simple things, right?
Right.
But if you don't show up authentically from day one, the chance of that ever working because you just felt chosen because they picked you, if you're not equally doing the choosing for both yourself and that partner, it's only a matter of time until the resentment and disconnection is going to build.
Totally. The authenticity is so important, right? You're looking for somebody who is a good fit for you, right? I tell people all the time, your job in dating is to attract the right people and repulse, like drive away everybody else, right? It's not rejection. You are literally looking to repel these people because they aren't your people, right? And the only way to do that is to show up authentically. You want them to see your true self right from the beginning, who you are. Like, yes, of course you're loving, all the women I work with have huge hearts and love to give and love to love, right? They love big. Like, of course, that's who you are. But at the same time, like you just giving and giving and giving is going to be exhausting and you're going to attract takers, right?
Yes.
You need to be able to have that reciprocal relationship from the beginning that you really want, because what you really want is somebody who's going to show up for you and be there when you're having hard days. And that's going to take you being vulnerable, which is really hard for strong women to do, right? But you being vulnerable and say you have needs and wants and desires and communicate them. Otherwise, you're going to get like this narcissistic guy that's taking from you all the time. And you end up, like you said, resentful in the end.
And then you're going to wonder, why do I always end up here?
Why is it the same pattern and the same guy? This is why, ladies.
This is why. One of the things when I first started dating John, I had done so much work on myself and was really proud of the confidence and independence I had gained since I had never, ever been alone, because I started dating my ex when I was 14. And so I literally never went through that individuation separation. I never went through dating. And so that I had this in my mid to late 30s. I met John when I was 37. But I was really, really afraid of losing myself in relationship, because that was what I had experienced, was you give up of yourself in favor of the we, right? And I had to recognize, if I lose myself again, I'm going to become resentful. And that in my growing up and in my marriage, it was too enmeshed, and I had no differentiation of self. And I didn't want to be disengaged. So I needed to find that right balance, right? And I remember one of the very first things that I said to him early on was, you know, I've worked really hard to get where I am, and I'm not willing to lose me. And that was a really big deal, because I, even at times when there were nights that we could have had together, I chose to stay home and not sleep over or have him over, in favor of, you know what, I'm really needing some alone time. And that was major for me, that I could choose alone time in favor of this other person, because I otherwise would have felt really insecure being alone. Or what are they going to think? Is this rejection? Are they going to support me? And having that as a value set from day one was like, you know, now I'm giving him the choice to be in relationship with what my highest value is. Not highest value, but one of my highest values. You know, and another highest value for me was my kids came first. And I used to do this little like test on first date and this was just, you know, my kids and I are very close. And on a first date, I would, you know, either text my kids and say goodnight in the middle of dinner, or if it was a quick phone call, just, you know, hey, baby, I love you, sleep well, I'll see you tomorrow. And I use that as a litmus test, honestly, because if any person that I was out on a date with was going to judge me for saying goodnight to my kids for the 10 seconds that it took, you know what? Not my person. And I'd rather know that from moment one versus like 5 or 10 dates in to reveal, you know, I actually really say goodnight to my kids every night when they're at their dad. So I hope you don't mind. Like, nope, that's me from day one.
I love that.
It was so simple, but it was the quickest way for me to determine, am I showing up authentically from the moment you meet me?
Yeah, that's it. That's just super present. I love how like aligned we are in so many things. So I was 37, 38 when I met my current partner. And on the first date, and I tell people, I wouldn't recommend like necessarily getting super deep on the first date, but it just felt right. And it was like called to me. And so I did, but we had such a strong connection right from the get-go, but I hadn't realized, we met on a dating app, and I hadn't realized on
which app? Which app?
We met on Match.
Okay, we met on Tinder.
Love it. Yeah, we met on Match, and on there he had put that he was separated, but for whatever reason I didn't see it. And so when we were on our first date, he talked about how he was separated, in the process of divorce, moved out, all the things. And I was like, oh, red flag. Like, I don't date guys that are separated.
Yeah.
But there was such a strong connection there. And he'd been married his whole life, right? Like 20 some years. I'm like, you're not even divorced yet. Like, what are you really looking for? Right? Like expecting, like, don't you want some dating experience?
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking for a partnership. I'm not looking to just kind of screw around. Like, I'm good. I've done that. And he was kind of nervous because I could tell he really liked me too, and wasn't really sure, like, it's a trick question. How do I don't know. And I don't even fully remember what he said, but he asked the question in return. And I said, you know what? I have built an an extraordinary life for myself. I have
Mm.
a career that I am completely in love with. I have my dream home that I love. I have family and friends that are incredibly supportive, and I really couldn't ask for anything more. So if I'm inviting a partner into my life, it's because they're going to add to that, right? So I'm really only looking for someone who's adding to this amazing life that I already have, not looking to take away. Again, I was really cautious about giving up those parts of myself because I had like, was working out and doing yoga and like hanging out with friends. Like, I'm just looking for somebody that adds to that, not that's going to take away my whole life. And just making that clarity for whatever reason on that first date, like it felt very authentic and very important to me that, again, not this extreme independence of pushing somebody away or not wanting to be vulnerable, but instead saying like, I have really a well-established life and I'm very busy and I'm very happy. And I'm just looking for somebody who's adding to it. I always describe it as, I like cake, but I don't need frosting, right? I think cake's just really yummy all by itself, but frosting like adds something really nice to it, right? Like my life is this beautiful, yummy cake and I'm just looking for the sprinkles on top.
Yep. I love that. And so many women are afraid to actually state what their needs are around that for fear of, well, what if you won't like me? Great. Not the right person for you. Move on. It's not personal. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of fear around showing up with that level of authenticity, which might also possibly be a result of they might not even know what their true self is that they want to express, which is where you and I come in of doing that work with people in that process to be able to make sure that when you get to that place, you know, who is it that I really want to bring in based on who am I and what I am most aligned with right now.
I could not agree more, right? It's so easy to adapt and assimilate into somebody else's life if you're A, not really clear about who you are and what you want, and B, not clear about who you're trying to attract and invite and why, right?
And I'll be honest, like on dating apps, there was that moment where it's like, okay, am I going to put who I really am, but that might not attract many people to swipe right? Or am I going to put the content out there that I think people are going to want to read or be interested in, which might get me a lot more messages in my inbox?
I had this debate with a friend at a bar one night. She was new to dating, newly divorced, newer than, right? Like I'd been on the dating apps for a little while and pulled up my Tinder and was looking at it and reading it. And she's like, what is this? And on there I had this like feels embarrassing to say now, but I stand behind it 1,000%. But I put like something to the effect of like, I love drinking bubbles in the sunshine while eating charcuterie. She's like, you sound like such a pretentious bee. No one is interested in this like high maintenance like version of yourself you're putting out there. And I'm definitely not a high maintenance person, but I'm like, you know what? I want someone who wants to go on vacation with me and sit on the beach and drink champagne and eat meat.
Yes. Yes.
That is what I'm looking for in life, right? Like, I'm not hiding it. She's like, I don't know, this is never going to work. And who have I attracted? On our first date, he bought a bottle of champagne and we ate charcuterie. And I did not ask for that. And that was not on my match profile. He did not see that. Like, I literally manifested and created this human.
You can't create and bring into your life what you don't know you want. Right? Without that level of clarity. And it's not about pretentiousness. It's about, no, this, like, I love that you said that, like, this is just what I want to be doing. I want someone who wants to do these things too.
Yeah. Yep. And now we go to Mexico and sit on the beach and drink margaritas and bubbles. And this is our life together.
It's amazing. So let's go back to the path we were starting to go down, which is how, once you find that partnership, it can look any which way. So I know you and I were chatting a little bit beforehand that we're both, again, super aligned in the path doesn't have to be that formula.
Yeah. So I think, I was starting out sharing kind of how I ended up kind of in my marriage and then it ending, right? And now you know about my charcuterie bubble partner. But I think the biggest difference, after we get through this like extraordinary life and adding this person is like, we are so completely committed to each other. Mm-hmm. there's so much security. I remember all I kept saying through my marriage and the first couple of guys I dated afterwards is I just want someone who adores and cherishes me. Right. And again, my partner, not knowing that, literally says those words to me. Came out, I just want you to know how much I adore and cherish you. Right. Like those things are there. There's so much security there. So, you know, what we were talking about is both of us are now in committed relationships, and maybe it looks a little non-traditional, but, you know, he gave me a beautiful diamond ring in Italy a few months ago. And the question that everybody asks is, when are you getting married? Right? Because again, the societal pressure of here's the boxes you need to check and here's the order.
What's next? Yeah.
And I was sharing with you that like, we just don't have a plan for that. We've both been married. We both have been divorced. And the difference this time around is I feel so completely secure and committed in this relationship. I actually don't feel like I need more. I needed it the first time. We're at some point we'll probably get, you know, do a commitment ceremony, whatever. I don't know if we'll legally get married again. I don't know if that makes sense for us or not. It's like, it's such a non-issue because we're so completely committed to each other that I just don't have there's not this drive to figure out what's next at all. Yeah. That's completely gone. Any anxiety about what does this mean? Or is he going to choose me? Or if we haven't done this, then I don't have like value. I've worked through all of that stuff. Yeah. And now like feeling so secure, I just don't feel like I need more.
And I am in the exact same spot. And it's so confusing to other people. It is so confusing to others because they can't conceptualize, well, how do you feel secure if you're not married? Like you guys just moved in together recently. John and I still don't live together after 6 years, and we won't for another couple of years until after our kids graduate, because we've chosen to not put all the kids in the house together. It just is one more level of complexity that could complicate things, could be great. Both are true. And it's not necessary for us to feel in commitment or that, you know, I mean, his daughter refers to me as I'm her stepmom. My kids refer to him as he's their stepdad. The girls refer to each other as this is my stepsister. And we don't live together and we're not married. But the definition of family doesn't have to be defined by those legal parameters. And I love that. Like they know that this is their family and or a version of their extended family that they feel committed with, that they feel trusting in the relationship. And I find it interesting. I mean, just recently, my girls were with their dad and some of his extended family who, because of my divorce, I haven't seen in many, many years. And they were asking about John and I around, I don't get it. Like, what do you mean they're not married yet? And what do you mean they don't live together? Like, is that a real relationship if you don't live together or aren't married? And it's like, I don't know. I'd like to think that he and I are more conscious and intentional in our relationship than most married couples are. And to me, I want to remain, I'm not saying we don't need to not live together to remain intentional.
Right.
It just means one does not equal the other.
Yeah, it makes sense for you guys where you're at right now, and you're intentionally choosing to keep it this way. And because there isn't any need to change it, right? Like it's not going to make you more committed to move in together. No. It's not going to make you feel more secure to move in together. Like it's working the way it is. Like you said, you're able to focus on your girls in their last few years. The plan is you have the rest of your lives to spend together, hopefully, right? Like there isn't this rush. There's not a need to check the box that maybe, I don't know about you, but I definitely felt earlier on in my life.
Oh my gosh, that was my whole trajectory. Was I was rushing to what's next, because I was so anxious and insecure that I believed if I got to what was next, then I'll feel better.
Yep.
And then I got to all of those next stages and there was no more next stage. Like after my second daughter was born, it was like, okay, what's next now? Now this is just like writing it out. And that's when I had my kind of life crisis of, okay, now what? Who am I if I'm not rushing to what's next? And, you know, I even realized like when, you know, I was with my ex since I was 14 and I wanted to be engaged so badly. And I look back at my younger self and I just want to give her a hug on the level of insecurity she felt. And I had even cut out, this is so embarrassing, I don't think I've publicly said this, but whatever. I had cut out a De Beers ad from the Diamond is Forever De Beers ad from a magazine, and I had pasted it onto his computer monitor that, De Beers, a diamond is forever, as if like I needed to remind him, if you propose, then I'll feel better. Like maybe he didn't want to propose, like maybe, and I just look back and thinking like I was so insecure and thought that would give me the safety and security.
Yep.
And I was so focused on a wedding. I just want to have a wedding, right? And I now, like, I don't need a wedding. I have a relationship.
Yeah. I was never the girl focused on a wedding. And even like looking back, because that's just not, I'm a Virgo. I'm very like practical, right? The aesthetics that like, it's just not. But looking back at just how unengaged I was with it makes me wonder like how aware I was of like, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
Yeah. So as a coach and we're helping women through this, what are some of the real kind of nuggets that you share with women who are at this stage really wanting to figure out who they are so that they can attract a partner who's in alignment with them? What are some of the things that you find are really beneficial for people to hear?
I think the first one we've already touched on, which is getting really clear about who you are and who you're becoming, right? So the first assignment I always give clients is like, I want you to like write down like 5 years from now, who is the best version of you that you're becoming, and get really clear about who she is. And then secondly, then focus on what kind of partner, what kind of ideal partner are we looking for her, so that you're just crystal clear about what it is that you want, because that's going to make it so simple. Again, we're looking to just like a magnet, either just push away the people that aren't right and draw in. And you're going to say no to everything that's not that. You're going to start learning to say no instead of, I was talking to a client yesterday and she was talking about how she's been on several dates with this guy and she doesn't really want to kiss him and they don't really have anything in common. And, she's not really excited to see him, but she thinks that her friend said that he seems like a nice guy and she should like him. So how long should she really give it? Right. Like to continue dating this guy. I'm like, you don't like him. He doesn't meet any of the criteria.
Not wanting to kiss him. That's really good information.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not attracted to him. You guys have nothing. You don't want to go do anything with him. You're not looking forward to your dates before they happen, while they're happening, or after they happen. You give yourself permission to like learn to trust yourself again, that like you'll know who it is, versus, everybody wants to put up these walls and protect themselves. But I want people just to show up really vulnerably and put yourself out there so that you're actually attracting the right kind of person.
Because if you show up vulnerably, you will likely find a partner who is also comfortable with vulnerability.
And if you show up authentically, you're going to attract people who are authentic. It's going to push away people who aren't. So your job is to not take that personally. That's not rejection. I always use the analogy of like dating's like trying on shoes. Like when you go to the shoe store, right? Like, I don't know about you, but tons of shoes hurt my feet and it's hard to find the right ones. And are they going to be too high or not high enough? Are they going to go with the outfit, right? Like all the shoes that I put back shouldn't feel rejected. They're just not the right ones for this moment in time that I'm looking for, right?
It's just not the right shoe, right?
It's just, it's not you, it's me. Right. Yeah. So like not taking it personally, not taking it as rejection, just looking at it as, I really think dating is gathering information. You should be learning about yourself with every date, as well as
the exact same language. Of course we do.
Why are we the same person?
I
you're
know.
Learning about these people that you're out with, which can be really fun. So that's sort of the second thing that I would say is like really pay attention to how you're thinking about dating. Because if you're dreading it, right? If your messages you're telling everybody around you and telling yourself is dating is awful, I hate it, there's nobody out there, I'm never going to meet anybody, all the good ones are taken, right?
Mindset. Yep.
That is driving who you're choosing, how you're showing up, all the things, right? So if you just think about, if you approached your job that way, like you got up in the morning, you're like, let's just say you're in sales and I'm not going to make any sales today. There's nobody out there that wants to buy any of my stuff. This is a stupid job. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm wasting my time. Rah, 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 rah.
Yep.
Like, how would you feel? Like, you're not going to show up ready to like make sales and be happy and engaged in your work day. You don't love it. You don't want to be there. You're not putting out the vibe that you're open for business. Dating is the same way. Your mindset is really critical in how you're doing it. So really start to notice those thoughts and feelings you have about dating and start working on creating that shift.
I am so happy you and I are connected. And I'm just like setting the intention that one day the four of us are going to be drinking champagne and having charcuterie somewhere, because that's like kind of my love language too. Like, I just want to be doing that. And it's so refreshing to, be connected and to be having this conversation. And I hope that the people listening who are really needing to hear this is the exact message they're needing to hear right now, because there are no accidents for that, right? And what you said, dating is gathering information about yourself and what you need, and versus this fear-based, I'm going to die alone game.
Yeah. You're going to create the stories that you tell yourself. So be very cautious with your words outside and inside, because you're going to create it.
I could talk to you for hours. So how can people find you if they want to learn and connect and, just continue to be inspired on their journeys?
I think my favorite place to hang out online is Instagram right now. So my username is just my first and last name. It's just KAMAHURLEY. And I share all kinds of things on there about dating and mindset and sometimes anxiety, because I just love that anyways. And
that link, of course, will be in the show notes, so people can have that direct link to find you.
Yeah. So DM, reach out, say hi. I love meeting new people, so I'm all about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I value the work that you're doing. I think getting this message out, especially to more and more women, around stepping into their own clarity so they can really cultivate and bring into their lives that we all are. This is our birthright. No one is not deserving of this, right?
I love that. Yes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. I hope you all take care and be well. And if this, conversation inspired you, let us know. We'd love to hear feedback, because that's always really fun for me to be able to hear oh my God, that was exactly what I needed to hear. And, putting these tools to use is easier said than done. And we're all here to support you on the journey. So take care and be well, everyone.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat. Visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.